Hey everyone! Welcome back to another episode of Mind Hacks, where we dive into all things related to optimizing your mental game. I'm Adam, your host, and today we're tackling a topic that, let's be honest, all of us struggle with: focus. And I'm not talking about the quick, get stuff done for 5 minutes kind of focus. I mean the deep, sustainable concentration we need to get through our daily lives in this crazy, distracting world.
That's right. I'm Sophia, your co-host, and if you've ever found yourself staring at your phone for 20 minutes, then wondering how you ended up watching videos of cats, knocking things over instead of finishing that report you were supposed to be working on, well, you're not alone.
Oh yeah, I've definitely been down that rabbit hole more times than I'd like to admit. But here's the thing, staying focused has become harder than ever. Between endless notifications, social media, and our multitasking habits, it's no wonder our attention spans have taken a serious hit.
Exactly. And today, we're going to talk all about that, why it's so tough to focus nowadays, and more importantly, what we can do about it. We'll be sharing some awesome strategies, personal stories, and practical tips that will help you cut through the distractions and really get in the zone.
Yup, we've got everything from focus techniques you can start using today to ways your mental health, diet, and even sleep play a huge role in your ability to concentrate. So whether you're working from home, studying for exams, or just trying to finish that book you've been putting off for weeks, we've got something for you in this episode.
Trust us. By the end of this conversation, you'll have a whole toolkit to help you focus better, whether it's for 5 minutes or an entire workday. So stick around. This is going to be good.
All right, let's get into it. Let's dive into the big question of the day. Why is it so hard to focus? I mean, it feels like staying concentrated on one task is a superpower nowadays. You sit down to work, and before you know it, you've gone through 15 emails, checked your phone 10 times, and somehow ended up watching a YouTube video on how to train your dog, and you don't even have a dog.
Exactly. Focus has become such a rare commodity, and I don't think it was always this difficult. Like, think back to when we were kids. Okay, maybe I was still easily distracted back then too, but it feels like our attention spans have gotten shorter, right?
For sure. I think the environment we're in now makes it way harder to concentrate. I mean, think about how often we're interrupted. Phones buzzing, emails popping up, social media notifications, and don't get me started on that constant stream of information from the internet. Our brains are being hit with new stimuli constantly.
Right. And there's actually science behind why we get distracted so easily. It's all about dopamine. Every time we check our phone, get a notification, or scroll through social media, our brain gets a little hit of dopamine. And that feels good, right? So, our brain is basically being trained to seek out more of these quick rewards, which makes it even harder to stay focused on longer, more complex tasks.
Exactly. That's why you can be in the middle of something important, but then suddenly find yourself checking Instagram without even realizing it. Our brains crave those small, instant rewards because they're easy to get.
It's like we're constantly searching for that next hit of information, even if it's completely irrelevant to what we should be focusing on. And the scary part is, we're getting used to it. Our attention spans are getting shorter because we're training ourselves to bounce from one thing to the next.
Exactly. And this isn't just a personal issue, it's everywhere. Social media platforms, news outlets, even entertainment. Everything is designed to grab your attention and keep it. They're all fighting for those precious seconds of your focus.
And it's not just external distractions. A lot of the time, the distractions are internal too. I know for me, when I'm feeling stressed or anxious, my mind is racing with 100 different thoughts. Even if I sit down to focus, I'm still thinking about that email I forgot to send, or worrying about a meeting later. So even if the room is quiet, my brain isn't.
Yeah, internal distractions are huge. That's where stress, anxiety, and even fatigue come in. When your brain is overloaded with thoughts, it's hard to focus on what's in front of you. Sometimes it's not about getting rid of external distractions. It's about calming the noise in your head.
And let's not forget about multitasking. I feel like we've been trained to think that multitasking is a skill, but really, It's just making things worse. When I try to juggle too many things at once, I end up doing none of them well.
Exactly. Multitasking is a myth when it comes to focus. Studies have shown that trying to do multiple tasks at once can actually reduce productivity by up to 40%. It splits our attention and makes it harder to concentrate deeply on any one task.
It's like your brain is constantly switching gears, and that takes a lot of energy. So instead of smoothly focusing on one thing, you're burning out trying to switch between tasks.
Yep, and it's exhausting. I think part of the problem is that we've gotten so used to distractions that deep focus feels almost unnatural now. We're out of practice.
Definitely. And I think another big reason focusing is so hard is because we don't give ourselves enough time to just sit with one thing. We're always rushing. But focus, especially deep focus, takes time. You can't just expect to get into the zone instantly.
Exactly. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes of uninterrupted focus to really get into that flow state where you're fully immersed in what you're doing. But with constant interruptions, we never give ourselves a chance to reach that point.
Right. So it's not just about having the right tools or techniques. It's about understanding that focus is a skill. And like any skill, it takes practice. But if we keep bombarding ourselves with distractions, we're never going to develop that skill.
Absolutely. And that's what we're here to talk about today. Why focus is so hard, and more importantly, how we can start to reclaim it. So, now that we've diagnosed the problem, let's move into the good stuff, the solutions. Segment 3. Overcoming common focus challenges. All right, we've covered some great tips on how to improve your focus, but let's be real. Staying focused isn't always easy. There are some challenges that come up for everyone, no matter how disciplined you are. So, in this segment, we're going to dive into some of the most common focus challenges people face and how to overcome them.
Yeah, because let's face it, life happens, and even with the best intentions, distractions and obstacles are everywhere. So let's get into these common challenges and how we can navigate them. What's the first big one, Adam?
One of the biggest challenges I hear from people is procrastination. We all know that feeling. You have something important to do, but you just can't bring yourself to start. Instead, you do everything else but that one thing.
Oh, I can definitely relate to that. You end up cleaning your whole house instead of working on that deadline.
Exactly. And it's not that we're lazy. It's usually because the task feels overwhelming or we're worried we won't do it perfectly, so we avoid it. One way to overcome this is by breaking the task down into smaller steps, like we talked about earlier.
Yes. It's all about tricking your brain into taking that first small step. I've found that setting a super low barrier to entry works wonders. For example, instead of telling myself, I have to write this entire report, I'll say, I'm just going to write the first sentence. That tiny commitment often gets the ball rolling.
That's a great tactic, and I love pairing it with the 5-minute rule. You tell yourself you're only going to work on the task for 5 minutes, and if you want to stop after that, you can. Most of the time, though, you'll find yourself continuing because the hardest part was just starting.
Totally. Once you've started, the momentum kicks in, and before you know it, you're deep into the task. Another big challenge I've noticed is getting distracted by technology. Phones, notifications, emails. There's always something buzzing or pinging to steal your attention.
Yes, technology is probably one of the biggest distractions in today's world. And let's be real, our phones are designed to grab our attention. So how do we fight back? One of my favorite methods is turning off notifications. I go into Do Not Disturb mode, or I'll put my phone in another room when I'm working on something important.
That's a solid strategy. I also use apps like Focus at Will or Forest, which not only block distractions, but also give you a sense of achievement for staying off your phone. Forest, for example, grows a virtual tree the longer you stay focused. And if you pick up your phone, the tree dies. It's a fun way to gamify focus.
Oh yeah, gamifying focus can really help. Another trick I use is batching notifications. Instead of checking my emails or messages constantly, I set designated times throughout the day when I'll look at them. That way, I'm not distracted every time something new pops up.
That's such a good point. And it's not just about turning off notifications. It's about training yourself to stay present in the task at hand. I've found that mindfulness really helps with this. When I catch myself getting distracted, I gently bring my attention back to what I'm doing without judgment. Over time, that habit strengthens your ability to focus.
Definitely. And mindfulness is something you can build over time. It's normal for your mind to wander, but the key is not to get frustrated with yourself when it happens. Just bring your attention back to the task. It's a muscle you can train.
Absolutely. Another challenge a lot of people face is mental fatigue. You know those days where your brain just feels foggy, and no matter how hard you try, you can't focus for more than a few minutes.
Oh, for sure. Mental fatigue is real, especially if you've been working long hours or not getting enough sleep. One way to combat this is by making sure you take regular breaks. We've talked about the Pomodoro technique, but even just standing up and stretching every hour can help recharge your brain.
Yes. And don't underestimate the power of a good night's sleep. It's amazing how much more focused and alert I feel when I've had a solid 7 to 8 hours of sleep. If I'm tired, my ability to focus goes out the window, no matter how hard I try.
Totally. Sleep is a big one. And I think nutrition plays a role too. If you're running on caffeine and sugar all day, your energy levels are going to crash. Eating balanced meals with healthy fats, proteins, and complex carbs can help keep your brain fueled and focused throughout the day.
Absolutely. Another focus challenge that's super common is dealing with stress and anxiety. When you're feeling overwhelmed or anxious, it's almost impossible to focus because your mind is racing with all the what-ifs and worries.
Stress and anxiety can completely hijack your focus. One way to manage it is by doing a quick brain dump. Just grab a notebook and write down everything that's swirling around in your head. Getting it out of your mind and onto paper helps you feel more in control.
Yes, I do that too. It's so freeing to just dump all your worries onto paper. Another thing that helps is breathing exercises. When I feel anxious, I do a few minutes of deep breathing, just focusing on the inhale and exhale. It calms my nervous system and helps me regain focus.
That's a great technique. It's amazing how something as simple as breathing can bring you back to the present. And speaking of the present, let's talk about overcommitment. Sometimes the reason we can't focus is because we've said yes to too many things, and now we're juggling too much at once.
Yes. Overcommitting is a huge one. When you've got a million things on your plate, it's hard to give any one task your full attention. I've learned that it's okay to say no sometimes, or at least delegate tasks when possible. Focus isn't just about doing more, it's about doing the right things.
Exactly. And learning to prioritize is key. If you try to focus on everything, you'll end up focusing on nothing. I always ask myself, what's the most important thing I need to focus on today? Then I give that task my best energy and attention.
That's such good advice. We often think we need to be doing it all, but it's really about focusing on what matters most. And if you're overwhelmed, start small. Just focus on the next task in front of you instead of worrying about the whole to-do list.
Exactly. And sometimes focus challenges come from setting expectations that are too high. We expect ourselves to be on and productive all the time, but that's not realistic. It's okay to have off days, and it's okay to adjust your pace. The key is consistency, not perfection.
Right. Be kind to yourself when you're struggling. Focusing is hard, especially in today's world. But with these tools, you can slowly improve your focus muscle. It's all about finding what works for you, managing your environment, and being mindful of the obstacles in your way.
Exactly. So, if you're facing any of these common challenges, procrastination, distractions, mental fatigue, stress, or overcommitment, know that you're not alone, and there are practical ways to overcome them. It won't be perfect, but progress is what counts.
Segment 4. Focus and mental health. In this segment, we're diving into a topic that's incredibly important but often overlooked when we talk about focus: mental health. We live in a world where distractions are everywhere, but for many people, staying focused is even harder when mental health is involved. Whether it's anxiety, depression, or just everyday stress, these can have a huge impact on your ability to concentrate. Adam, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I'm really glad we're talking about this. When people struggle to focus, they often beat themselves up, thinking it's just about discipline or productivity hacks. But if your mental health is suffering, it's going to be hard, if not impossible, to focus. And I think a lot of people underestimate how connected focus and mental well-being are.
Exactly. Your mental state plays such a key role in your ability to concentrate. It's not just about whether you can block distractions or use time management techniques. If you're feeling anxious, overwhelmed, or dealing with depression, your brain just doesn't function the same way.
Right. Let's talk about anxiety first. Anxiety often triggers this sense of urgency in your brain, like there's a million things to do and not enough time to do them. You end up feeling scattered, jumping from one task to another, but never really getting anything done.
Yes. Anxiety can create that constant fight or flight feeling, which makes it so hard to focus. You're always worrying about the future or what could go wrong, and it's difficult to stay grounded in the present moment. When I feel that way, I try to do some grounding exercises like deep breathing or progressive muscle relaxation. It helps calm that nervous energy.
That's a great strategy. Another thing I've found helpful is journaling. When I'm feeling anxious, my thoughts are all over the place. But when I write them down, it helps me organize what's going on in my head. It's almost like clearing mental clutter so I can focus better.
Yes, I do the same thing. Writing down my worries makes them feel less overwhelming. And let's not forget therapy. Whether it's cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, or just talking to a counselor, therapy can be incredibly helpful for managing anxiety and improving focus.
Absolutely. Therapy is a big one, and so is practicing self-compassion. Anxiety can make you really hard on yourself when you're not as productive as you want to be. But reminding yourself that it's okay to have off days can actually help you regain focus faster.
Exactly. And let's talk about depression too. Depression can make focusing feel like a Herculean task. Everything feels heavy, and even the smallest tasks seem overwhelming. When I've experienced bouts of depression, it's like my brain is moving in slow motion.
That's such a good way to describe it. Depression can sap your energy, motivation, and concentration. When you're in that space, it's important to start small, like really small. Just getting out of bed or writing one sentence can feel like a win.
Yes, it's about setting tiny goals that feel achievable. And if you can't focus for long stretches, that's okay. Break things down into even smaller pieces. Focus for 5 minutes, then take a break. Depression often makes you feel guilty for not being productive, but it's important to be kind to yourself during those times.
Absolutely. And for people who struggle with depression, routine can be a big help. Having a structured day where you wake up, have a morning routine, and dedicate specific times for certain tasks can give you a sense of control and help you regain focus, even when it feels like everything is too much.
That's a great point. A daily routine gives you stability when everything else feels overwhelming. And I think movement is important too. Exercise might feel like the last thing you want to do when you're depressed, but even a short walk or some stretching can boost your mood and help clear your mind.
Yes, exercise releases endorphins, which are natural mood boosters. It doesn't have to be intense. A walk around the block can do wonders for your mental clarity. And on the topic of mood, nutrition and sleep also play a big role in focus and mental health. If you're not fueling your body with the right nutrients or getting enough sleep, your brain is going to struggle.
Exactly. A lot of people don't realize how much diet affects mental health. When I'm not eating well, lots of sugar or processed foods, it definitely impacts my mood and focus. Same with sleep. If I'm not well rested, I find it impossible to concentrate.
Right, and both sleep and nutrition have a huge impact on brain function. In fact, studies show that people with chronic sleep deprivation experience a decline in cognitive function, memory, and focus. So it's not just about productivity hacks, it's about taking care of your body.
Yes, the mind and body are connected in ways we don't always realize. And this is why self-care is so important. I think a lot of people associate self-care with indulgence, but it's really about making sure you're mentally and physically well enough to function. If you're running on empty, no productivity tool is going to help you focus.
Exactly. Self-care isn't selfish. It's necessary for good mental health. Whether that means taking time for yourself, getting enough sleep, or seeking professional help when you need it, it all impacts your ability to focus and be productive.
And on that note, it's important to mention burnout. Sometimes when you push yourself too hard for too long, your brain just shuts down. You can't focus, you feel emotionally exhausted, and even simple tasks feel like a burden. That's a clear sign you need to step back and take a break.
Yes, burnout is real, and it can take a serious toll on both your mental health and your focus. If you've reached that point, it's not just about pushing through, it's about recharging. Taking a vacation, unplugging from work, or even just dedicating time to hobbies can help you regain focus once you've had a chance to rest.
Exactly. Burnout is your body and mind telling you they need recovery time. And it's okay to take that time. In fact, taking breaks and giving yourself space to rest is one of the best things you can do for your long-term focus and mental well-being.
So true. So, to sum it up, if you're struggling with focus, it might not just be about willpower or productivity tips. Mental health is a key factor. Whether you're dealing with anxiety, depression, or burnout, it's important to address those underlying issues. Once you take care of your mental well-being, your ability to focus will improve too. Segment 5. The role of diet, sleep, and exercise in focus. Now that we've covered how mental health impacts focus, let's talk about something equally important: the role of diet, sleep, and exercise in maintaining and improving focus. We often think of focus as something we can control purely with our minds, but what we put into our bodies and how we treat them can make a huge difference.
Yes, our brains don't exist in isolation. They're part of our overall system. If your body isn't getting the right fuel, enough rest, or enough movement, it's really hard to maintain focus no matter how hard you try. So let's break this down, starting with diet. Adam, how does what we eat affect our ability to focus?
Well, food is the fuel for our brains. If we're not feeding our bodies properly, we're not giving our brains the nutrients they need to function at their best. The problem is, a lot of us reach for quick fixes, like sugar or caffeine, when we're trying to power through tasks. While these might give us a temporary boost, they lead to crashes later on that can wreck our focus.
Totally. I've had those days where I load up on caffeine in the morning to get through work, but by mid-afternoon I'm crashing hard, and when I'm crashing, my ability to concentrate goes out the window.
Exactly. What's important is to focus on foods that give you sustained energy. Things like whole grains, lean proteins, and healthy fats provide a steady release of energy to keep your brain functioning well throughout the day. For example, complex carbs like oatmeal or quinoa slowly release glucose into your bloodstream, which helps with sustained concentration.
That's a great point. I've also noticed that eating too much sugar causes brain fog for me. After eating something sugary, I might feel a quick burst of energy, but then my focus drops dramatically after. That's why I try to incorporate more brain-boosting foods like berries, nuts, leafy greens, and fatty fish like salmon. These are packed with antioxidants and omega-3s, which are great for cognitive function. Yes, omega-3s are especially important because they help build and repair brain cells. Nuts, seeds, and avocados are also fantastic because they're rich in healthy fats that support brain health. Staying hydrated is another key part of the diet equation. Dehydration can lead to fatigue and lack of focus.
Exactly. Even mild dehydration can reduce your ability to concentrate. So sipping water throughout the day is crucial. Now, let's move on to sleep, which is something that many people underestimate when it comes to focus. If you're not getting enough rest, your brain is running on empty.
Yes, and sleep is when our brain consolidates information and forms memories. Without enough sleep, not only do you feel sluggish, but your cognitive functions, including focus, decision-making, and problem-solving, are impaired. Studies have shown that people who are sleep-deprived have a much harder time concentrating and are more prone to making mistakes. That's so true. When I don't get enough sleep, I find myself staring at the screen, reading the same line over and over again without processing anything. It's almost impossible to stay focused when you're exhausted.
Yeah, and it's not just about the quantity of sleep, it's about the quality. If you're tossing and turning all night, even if you're in bed for 8 hours, you're not getting the deep, restorative sleep your brain needs. Creating a consistent bedtime routine can really help with this. Things like limiting screen time before bed, keeping your room cool and dark, and winding down with a book or some meditation.
Absolutely. I've found that screen time right before bed is the biggest culprit for me. The blue light from phones and laptops can really mess with your sleep cycle by reducing the production of melatonin, which is the hormone that makes you sleepy. So I try to switch off my devices at least an hour before I go to bed.
That's a great habit. And I think it's important to note that the circadian rhythm, or your body's natural sleep-wake cycle, plays a huge role in your ability to focus. If you're constantly disrupting that cycle, whether by staying up late or sleeping in on weekends, it can throw off your focus and energy levels during the day.
Yes, maintaining a regular sleep schedule can work wonders for your focus. And speaking of energy, let's talk about exercise. Exercise isn't just about physical health. It's a huge factor in cognitive function as well. When you move your body, you're increasing blood flow to the brain, which boosts focus and memory.
Exactly. Exercise also releases endorphins, which are chemicals in the brain that help you feel good and stay alert. Even just 20 to 30 minutes of moderate exercise, like walking, yoga, or cycling, can have a significant impact on your ability to concentrate.
Yes. I've found that when I make time for exercise, even if it's just a quick walk during lunch, my afternoon focus is so much better. And for people who struggle with sitting still for long periods, incorporating movement breaks into your routine can make a big difference. It's amazing how just standing up and stretching for a few minutes can reset your brain.
Absolutely. There's also a lot of research suggesting that aerobic exercise, like jogging or swimming, is particularly beneficial for brain function. It promotes the growth of new neurons and improves connections in the brain, which can help enhance memory and focus.
That's really fascinating. And let's not forget about mind-body exercises like yoga and Tai Chi. These practices not only strengthen your body, but also improve mental clarity and focus. Plus, they help reduce stress, which we know is a huge barrier to concentration.
Definitely. Yoga, in particular, combines physical movement with mindfulness, which can help improve focus by calming your mind and grounding you in the present moment. Even deep breathing exercises can help bring your attention back when you feel distracted.
So to recap, diet, sleep, and exercise are like the 3 pillars of focus. If any of these areas are lacking, it's going to be hard for your brain to function at its best. Focus isn't just about what's happening in your head. It's about how you're treating your whole body.
Exactly. If you want to improve your focus, start with the basics. Eat a balanced diet rich in brain-boosting nutrients, get enough quality sleep, and move your body regularly. Once you've got those down, you'll be in a much better position to sharpen your mental focus.
Right. Focus isn't just about pushing through distractions, it's about taking care of yourself holistically. So, as we wrap up this segment, remember that making small, consistent changes to your diet, sleep habits, and exercise routine can have a huge impact on your ability to stay focused and productive.
Segment 6. Technology, a blessing and a curse for focus. We've talked about mental health, diet, sleep, and exercise, but there's one more huge factor that affects our ability to focus: technology. It's both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, we have access to tools that can enhance productivity, but on the other hand, we're constantly bombarded by notifications, social media, and digital distractions. Sophia, what's your take on how technology impacts our focus?
Oh man, technology is such a double-edged sword. On one hand, we've got all these amazing tools like productivity apps, reminders, and time-tracking systems that can help us stay organized and on track. But at the same time, the sheer amount of distractions that come with technology is overwhelming. Every time my phone buzzes, I'm pulled away from whatever I'm doing, and it takes time to refocus.
Exactly. We live in an age of constant notifications, emails, texts, social media alerts, news updates. It's nonstop. And studies show that every time we get distracted by our phones or computers, it takes about 23 minutes to fully regain focus. That's a lot of wasted time.
That's crazy. And it's not just about getting distracted by one thing, it's the cumulative effect of multiple distractions. You're trying to write an email, but then your phone pings, you get pulled into Instagram, then you remember you need to respond to a Slack message, and suddenly 20 minutes have gone by and you've lost your train of thought.
Exactly. It's what's called context switching. Every time you shift from one task to another, especially when it's an interruption, your brain has to recalibrate, which uses up mental energy and makes it harder to stay focused on the original task.
Yes, and the irony is that we often feel like we're being productive because we're doing so many things at once, but we're actually reducing our ability to focus deeply on any one task. So, what do you think? Is technology more of a blessing or a curse when it comes to focus?
It really depends on how we use it. When we let technology control us, when we're constantly reacting to it, it's definitely a curse. But when we take control and use technology intentionally, it can be a huge blessing. For example, there are apps that help you block distractions, like the Pomodoro timer that helps you work in focused bursts.
That's so true. I love using the Pomodoro technique. It forces me to focus for a set amount of time and then take a break. It's a simple but effective way to combat distractions. And there are other tools, like website blockers, that can help you stay off social media or certain websites while you're working.
Yes, apps like Freedom or Stay Focused can block access to distracting websites for a certain period of time. That way, you're not tempted to check Twitter or YouTube when you should be working. But I think the key is not just using technology to block distractions. It's also about creating healthy boundaries around technology use.
Absolutely. One thing that's really helped me is turning off notifications for non-essential apps. It's amazing how much more focused I can be when my phone isn't constantly lighting up with messages. I also try to schedule specific times during the day to check email or social media instead of constantly reacting to every new message as it comes in.
That's such a good strategy. I found that putting my phone in Do Not Disturb mode while I'm working is a game changer. It's so much easier to focus when you're not being interrupted every 5 minutes. And on the flip side, using tech tools like task managers or to-do list apps can help keep you organized and on track.
Yes, I'm a big fan of apps like Todoist or Trello for managing my tasks. They help me prioritize what's important and stay focused on what I need to accomplish each day. Having a clear plan makes it easier to resist distractions because you know exactly what you need to be working on.
Exactly. And while we're talking about organization, calendars and reminders are also a great way to keep focused. I like to schedule blocks of time for deep work, where I know I won't be checking emails or answering calls. It helps me get into that flow state where I'm fully immersed in my work.
That's such a good point. Time blocking is an effective way to make sure you're dedicating enough time to focused work without getting sidetracked. But here's the flip side. What about the impact of social media on our focus? I feel like it's one of the biggest culprits when it comes to technology distractions.
Oh, for sure. Social media is designed to be addictive. The endless scrolling, the constant notifications, it's a huge focus killer. You think you're just going to check Instagram for a minute, and then 30 minutes later, you're still scrolling. And it's not just the time you spend on social media, it's the mental space it occupies. Even when you're not on it, your mind is often thinking about what you saw or what you're missing.
Yes. And that constant need for dopamine hits, those little rewards from likes, comments, and new posts, makes it harder to stay focused on tasks that require deeper, sustained attention. That's why I've started taking social media breaks. Sometimes I'll delete the apps from my phone for a day or two just to reset my brain.
That's a great idea. Digital detoxes are so important. We're so used to being connected all the time that it feels strange to unplug, but it's incredibly beneficial for focus and mental clarity. Even just taking one day a week to disconnect can make a huge difference.
Totally. And I think there's also something to be said for mindfulness when it comes to technology use. Being intentional about how and when we use technology can help us stay in control rather than letting it control us. For example, using tech to enhance focus, like guided meditation apps or music apps that play background sounds for concentration.
Yes, mindfulness is key. I love using apps like Headspace or Calm for short meditation sessions before I dive into work. It helps clear my mind and set the tone for focused work. And there are music apps, like Brain.fm, that play music scientifically designed to improve focus and cognitive performance.
That's so cool. I've tried listening to instrumental music or ambient sounds while working, and it definitely helps me stay focused longer. I think the bottom line is that technology can be a tool for focus, but only if we use it mindfully and set boundaries around it.
Exactly. Technology isn't going away, so the key is to make it work for you rather than against you. It's about finding a balance between using tech to enhance your productivity and managing distractions. So, whether it's using apps to block distractions, scheduling tech-free time, or being mindful about how you use social media, we all need strategies to make technology a blessing rather than a curse.
Absolutely. It's all about using technology in ways that help us stay focused rather than letting it control our attention. So, to all our listeners, try experimenting with some of these strategies and see what works best for you.
Segment 7. The Power of Micro-Focus Sessions. In this final segment, we're going to dive into a really interesting concept that has been gaining traction lately: micro-focus sessions. These are short, intense bursts of focus that can make a huge difference in productivity. Sophia, have you tried using micro-focus sessions in your work routine?
Yes, I've been experimenting with them recently, and I have to say, they're a game changer. Instead of trying to focus for long stretches and getting distracted, micro-focus sessions allow me to break my work into smaller, more manageable chunks, and I'm way more productive as a result.
Exactly. The idea behind micro-focus sessions is simple. Work in short, highly focused intervals, usually around 20 to 30 minutes, followed by a brief break. These shorter sessions are easier to commit to and help reduce mental fatigue. It's perfect for tasks that require deep concentration, but might be daunting to approach all at once.
Yes, and I've found that the key benefit is that it makes tasks less overwhelming. When I know I only have to focus for 25 minutes, it's easier to dive in because the commitment feels smaller. And once you get into that focused state, it's amazing how much you can accomplish in such a short amount of time.
That's such a good point. Often, the hardest part of focusing is getting started, and micro-focus sessions help lower that mental barrier. There's also a scientific basis for this. Studies show that our brains tend to perform better when we work in shorter, focused bursts rather than pushing ourselves to concentrate for hours on end.
Absolutely. And one popular method that many people use is the Pomodoro technique, which is a classic example of micro-focus sessions. The idea is to work for 25 minutes and then take a 5-minute break, repeating this cycle 4 times before taking a longer break. It's simple, but it really works.
Yes, the Pomodoro technique is a great way to structure micro-focus sessions. The timer creates a sense of urgency, which can help you stay focused, and the breaks prevent burnout. Plus, the breaks give your brain a chance to recharge, so when you come back, you're ready to focus again.
Exactly. And what I love about this method is that it's so flexible. If you're really in the zone, you can extend the focus time to 40 or 50 minutes. Or if you're working on something particularly draining, you can stick with the 25-minute intervals. The important thing is that you're breaking up your work into digestible chunks.
Right. Another benefit of micro-focus sessions is that they help you build momentum. If you're feeling unmotivated or stuck, committing to just 20 or 30 minutes can help you get started, and often, once you start, you'll find yourself wanting to continue. It's a great way to overcome procrastination.
Yes, I've noticed that too. On days when I'm struggling to focus, I'll tell myself, just do one 25-minute session. And once I'm done, I've usually made more progress than I expected, which motivates me to keep going. It's like tricking your brain into getting started.
That's a really smart approach. And I think another key element of micro-focus sessions is that they force you to prioritize. When you only have 25 minutes to work, you have to be strategic about what you focus on. It makes you think, what's the most important thing I can do in this time, rather than trying to tackle everything at once.
That's so true. Micro-focus sessions really help you eliminate distractions and zero in on the tasks that matter most. It also encourages you to work with more intensity because you know the session is limited. There's a clear start and stop time, which helps you stay focused on the task at hand.
Exactly. It's all about working smarter, not harder. And the great thing about these sessions is that they're easy to fit into a busy schedule. Even if you only have an hour, you can get 2 or 3 micro sessions in and still make significant progress. It's perfect for people who have a lot of demands on their time.
Yes, and for those who struggle with focus, micro sessions can be a real breakthrough. The shorter time frame is less daunting, so you're less likely to get overwhelmed or distracted. Plus, the breaks between sessions allow you to recharge without losing momentum.
Exactly. And another cool thing about micro-focus sessions is that they can be applied to almost any type of work. Whether you're writing, coding, studying, or even doing creative tasks, breaking your time into smaller focus sessions can help you maintain that level of concentration.
Totally. I've used them for everything from answering emails to brainstorming creative ideas. And what's great is that they help you maintain focus without burning out, which is so important. You're working intensely, but you're also giving yourself permission to rest and recharge, which keeps your energy levels high.
Yes, and those short breaks are crucial. Taking just 5 minutes to stretch, get some fresh air, or even do a quick meditation can reset your mind and body. When you come back to work, you're more refreshed and ready to focus again. It's a simple but powerful way to maintain your productivity throughout the day.
Absolutely. And as we've mentioned before, focus is something that improves with practice. The more you use micro-focus sessions, the better you get at staying focused for longer periods of time. It's like training your brain to concentrate more effectively.
Exactly. Micro-focus sessions are a great way to build your focus muscle over time. And for our listeners who want to try it out, start small. Commit to just 1 or 2 sessions a day and see how it works for you. You might be surprised by how much you can get done in just a short amount of time.
Yes. Give it a try. And remember to celebrate your progress, no matter how small. The key to productivity isn't about working harder, but about working smarter. Micro-focus sessions help you do just that.
Absolutely. Focused, intentional work can accomplish so much more than hours of distracted effort. So, whether you're tackling a big project or just trying to get through your to-do list, micro-focus sessions can help you stay on track and make steady progress.
That's a wrap on today's episode. We hope you found our discussion on micro-focus sessions helpful. Remember, sometimes less is more, and working in short, concentrated bursts might be exactly what you need to supercharge your productivity.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe and let us know in the comments if you've tried micro-focus sessions or if you have any other tips for staying focused. We'd love to hear from you.
Until next time, stay focused, stay productive, and take care.